All right, then. Let's talk about the Skull Merchant, shall we? Hey guys, what's up? Game Pizza Boy here. Welcome back to the Pizza Party. Hope we're all doing great today. And in today's video, I thought about just going through over and talk about my thoughts on the Skull Merchant. Obviously, the PTB came out recently with her, and along with also the two new survivors, along with their power, the perks, all that stuff. And obviously, there's a lot to discuss about with the PTB, of course. But I wanted to just focus on the video on the Skull Merchant and kind of give my thoughts on it, since everywhere right now on the internet, everyone's very mixed about the new killer right now. Some people like it, some people hate them, and I want to kind of give my thoughts on it and kind of show what I do like about the killer, at least, and then what do I not like about the killer, and kind of give my pointers on this. Obviously, this is just my opinion. Obviously, it might differ to yours, and obviously, even if I you don't agree with me on some stuff, it's fine though. It's all good. I do want to make this a nice, good discussion to kind of get my thoughts on the killer, because I do like to at least kind of give all my ideas and what I think about this killer and what I could think that maybe they could do to improve her and maybe make her a little more better. But again, I do find some things where you could still put into action and just get into the fight and be able to take a hold of her power, perks, all that stuff, and what I believe so very much as well. So I could see where they're kind of going for with the Skull Merchant, but let's just go ahead and get right into this and start discussing my thoughts on the Skull Merchant before she does come out in her chapter very soon in the month. But before we begin, however, though, if you do enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button. Tell me your thoughts about the Skull Merchant in the comment section below. I would love to hear it at least. And if you want to help support the channel, make sure to subscribe, click the bell to be notified when new videos come out. I also advise that you also go take a look at my multi-link down below in the description if you want to go check out all my socials, including on my Twitch, when I do go live over there on twitch.tv/gamingpizzaboy. So don't miss out a good pizza party. All right, let's get right into it and start discussing my thoughts on the Skull Merchant. All right, so where to begin right now? First of all, I wanted to just first discuss quickly one thing I will say about the killer is that I really do find her is really not the most greatest of the bunch of the killers that's been released so far. I think she's kind of the very lackluster kind of situation right here, especially when it comes to her power, which we're going to get to in just a moment. But I honestly really don't actually completely hate her as a whole. I am kind of disappointed for the fact that it was not a robot killer or someone who's literally like a cybernetic kind of situation a little bit more as a whole. It's just someone who's just really an expert in technology and just inventing stuff like that, machinery. But I mean, in her concept, I do just have to say she is quite pretty cool in design, I will say. First, design wise, just getting to that is I really love that. I like the claw on her. I love the clothing that gives her that aspect. The mask is pretty cool. So I actually do like that design very much, in my opinion. I do really like it. And I think she looks pretty amazing in every aspect for the idea of what she is. But I just tell by when it comes to gameplay wise, I was really hoping for something out of the blue about that situation that I was gonna enjoy so much more compared to other killers. And I kind of got a little overhyped to my situation right there, obviously. So that can really happen a lot. We can get overhyped by a lot of that situation. But I'm very disappointed in how it came out like this when it came to gameplay wise, which we're gonna get to right now. First, I'll talk about right now real quick my thoughts on her first for her power, and then I'll get to the perks, since the power is obviously the most important part of every killer, as we all know. So her power is called Eyes in the Sky, and as you can guess if you saw the trailer, it is obviously involving some drones. It states that the Skull Merchant starts with a trial with 4 drones. Pressing the power button will place a drone which will enter active mode after a short boot up period. Basically, active mode is whenever they boot up, it's this nice radius kind of aura that appears around the drone, and it kind of acts like a camera, basically detects, or a security basically detector right there. And in this mode, the drone will create a detective zone, as it states right there, around itself, and within it, the killer can actually become undetectable, and survivors will gain lock-on progress. So similar to getting infected by Wesker or Nemesis or anything, or waiting time when you start falling asleep by Freddy. If you stay in there for too long, you'll get some progress to what they call lock-on. And it's going to be very important when you know what lock-on does, and then I'll explain that a little bit more. So the drone will also reverse to scouting mode when no survivor is detected for a while. So basically, it's it will turn the whole the detective zone around itself into more of a kind of a search mode. It will start spinning around basically to find anyone within the vicinity. In scouting mode, the drone begins a sweeping scan, and if it finds a survivor, it will then re-enter active mode. Survivors then can interact with the drone to disable it. If they fail, it enters active mode. If they succeed, it returns to the killer, but the survivor is stuck with a claw trap. So once that happens, if they get caught, it will happen with active mode reactivating again. But obviously, in this point, once it happens, you can now disable the drone if you're a survivor. But if they fail, it enters active mode, and if they succeed, it will return back to the killer, but it will give what they call a claw trap. So let me get to these 2 points right here: claw trap and lock on. So there are 2 special effects you can do. First, the lock on, which is the special lock on progress. It mentions if you get, of course, caught with an active mode of the drone. It states when full, the survivor is revealed by the killer instinct while inside a drone's detective zone. And after that, it will suffer from the exposed status effect until the meter discharges or if they are put into the dying state. So basically, if you stay in it for too long, get cocky, working on a gen or something like that, not only you're learning the killer through your presence, but if you stay there for too long until you're completely filled up with the lock-on progress, you will basically get killer instinct, so the killer will know definitely you're over there for sure completely. And you'll suffer from the exposed status effect right there, and it will stay there until the meter discharges, or of course, if you get put in the dying state, which sounds pretty effective right there. More on my thoughts on that in just a moment, though. Then there is the claw trap, which, as it states, is that you get if you disable and destroy the drone. If you get a claw trap on you, basically it will broadcast the survivor's location to the killer until its battery dies. So it's like a nice little scanner for her radar that will always stay on her until eventually the battery dies out on the claw trap and it goes away and they can remove it. Now, if they get too close to a drone, it will enter active mode while this is happening, and the claw trap's battery will actually recharge. So there's a little effect to that right there as well. So they only keep wearing that and they can't get it off for a long time. The killer can press the active build button and open the radar anytime, as usual, and to see the locations of their survivors with the claw traps and those in detective zones. So it kind of acts like a way where you need to be very careful not to be right by drones, obviously, or else the battery just keeps recharging and you have to wait it out until it goes away. And then once it's gone, you can then remove it, and then you can be able to stay undetected now completely as a whole and get back to your normal routine, unless you're still in the chase, of course. Now, my thoughts on it so far, what I think about this power. In concept, in my opinion, I do like the power. I like the unique concept, but it's not really, in my opinion, very effective as it could be. The situation, though, is that this is just meant to help you detect survivors and just kind of get a laid out of everywhere they are. But it's so easy for a survivor to catch on and know if they're about to get caught right there, and they can just simply destroy the drone or pay attention where the drones is and kind of avoid it and have no issue with trying to do that, even if they're trying to avoid the killer, especially too. Not to mention the fact that really, though, is that with this being just what it is just for protecting survivors, it doesn't give any kind of effect to help you guarantee to at least get some hits on people. It just helps you know where they are to kind of scout the location. This just basically makes her pretty much a M1 killer again. So obviously, her power does not effectively help her in any way, during chases as much, unless of course you use the drone to your advantage, which could be pretty good, I would say, which I'll get to in just a moment. But anything else, it's not going to be as effective for any time to take out survivors. It just helps you kind of keep the track on everyone else if they get too cocky with taking out drones or anything like that, which most of the time will probably be possible right there. The situation, though, is that to me, when it comes to is like the concept of basically keeping survivors getting scammed by drones and getting caught with the claw traps or getting locked on progress. I did test around with this even on like second floor related maps like a Midwich and even also RPD, and actually sometimes if you actually place them, I think sometimes on the second floor and I think even the first floor, they can actually scan them even from above and below, so you can see the radius of that can still reach up pretty far above as well, which is nice. You can be able to catch anyone up on par right there. So if they're working on a gen, you want to scare them up, you can use that and keep them off of it until you get up there and damage the gen or regress it, or even until you scare them off, of course. So it's a pretty cool little thing right there that I like about that situation. Kind of helps good scaring people off and keep them back for a bit. But however, though, I don't think it's as effective as it is, because really, though, once the survivor just sees you placing it and they know where it is, they will avoid it. And once it goes into its little scouting mode, it's not that difficult for them to actually avoid it at all costs. Not only that, though, I think what makes it a little bit easier for Survivor to do is because the fact, I think in Survivor mode, if I remember, they can actually still see the scanning cone area, the zone of it. What would have been nice, honestly, and I think this is something I think they should do, is it just make it not seeable and make sure it doesn't make any loud, make sure it's like very stealthy in a way so that it really sneaks up on the survivors and they don't know. Like, it doesn't make any noise to the survivor at all so that they don't know if they're getting scanned or not. They'll have to pay attention to like their meter on the left side of the screen and know when obviously they're about to get close to being fully progress of their lock on. Similar to how like Ghostface, when he's stealth right there and he's trying to stalk you, basically. Maybe something like that. You have to pay attention and watch closely behind you, or watch your meter or stuff like that, or anything like that. Because if you pay attention very easily, you'll know when you're getting caught right there, and you can keep your eyes peeled. That adds to a little more stealth kind of situation, and keeping your eyes peeled whenever you notice something up right there. I feel like if they did something like that, that could really make it effective. At least that, just in my opinion, though, because I feel like something more stealthy like that could be very useful. At least for the whole special mode right there when it's like in normal active mode, and maybe when it gets to scouting mode, then it's pretty much like maybe like it could be like just like active mode could be like the very not stealthy version. It obviously makes noise still a little bit, and you still can tell where they are a little bit from time to time, but maybe not the cone the zone area. But then when it gets to scouting mode, you can't see it, but you can and you can't hear the noise, so it's like completely stealthy. Maybe something like that could be pretty cool in a concept. At least that's what I'm just saying right there, so it gives a little more of a surprise attack. So if they don't realize that he's there and then they get scanned, then active mode comes on, they're like, oh shit, it's right behind him, something like that. It'll be like, it's surprising them. I feel like that could be a good idea for to help work on the power a bit more. That can make it very useful. Lock on, though, is a pretty cool concept. I like that. It really adds to the way to kind of keep them on their toes and not work on gens every single time, and really be mindful, because if they're not careful and they get locked on for too long, they'll get scanned for the killer on her radar, and if they stay there for even longer until it's filled up, they will suffer with the exposed status effect, and killer instinct will trigger, and they'll just come after the guy who got exposed, and that will just be cleaned out very easily. Although the only issue about that is that pretty much if you played smart with a survivor, they can really avoid it very much at all costs. They can literally avoid it. So I feel like that's also another issue right there. I think it just takes a while for them to get scanned enough to do so. So I don't know, maybe if they need to like reduce it like a second or so, or two or something like that, just to make it a little more quickly to get scanned by lock on, just to make it quick right there. Although, then again, though, maybe it could be more like similar to how Trickster is more lingering a little bit when you throw the blade. So it takes a while before the blade hits eventually go away, and eventually finish it off so you can at least get the hit off them from a distance. Maybe something like that could be a little bit more lingering, a bit more with lock on. But overall, I think lingering is just fine. And a really good playstyle with this, I would say right now, before moving on, is obviously how I think it could be good for chases. If you really play very well, you can find a way to place them in certain loop places that survivor might do, and you can get them surrounded, and if they just stay there for too long and keep looping the area, they'll have to either take the one hit or face literally keep running around the area and get completely exposed, and then they'll be pretty much ready to down for the count. I think something like that would be pretty cool in a way for how the playstyle is, why I think maybe that's what I love about the power, for at least in chases. Chases is actually, I would say, it's probably a very effective, and I've seen some people do some good playstyles for it, and even tested out myself, and it's actually not bad. Again, you still have to see that survivors do play smart and try to avoid it in many ways. So be mindful not to rely too heavily on the drone in the area. But if you really get into good positions, you could possibly actually effectively take them out very well. Very well. Especially always remember to always call out back your drone, especially too when you're done with the chases as well, because then you can just get it back and then keep one at least or two with you at least during the chases when you get to another looping area. It just makes loops kind of more sided to you a bit more, I would say. Because as long as the survivor really is not paying attention, then they can really get effective right there. That's why also I like the idea if they add a little bit more stealth to the drones a bit more too, because then if they'll have to not, instead of just using their ears, they can use like their eyes and have to look around. If they see the drone, they're like, oh shit, I'm getting scanned right there, and I gotta get out of here right now, and something like that. I think that could be a really cool idea for what we could do with the killer. But overall, I mean, I think it's still pretty good, at least a special effect right there. Now, the claw trap right there, I do like about that, though. I do like the concept of what they're going for that one, where you damage the drone to help out your teammates, but in effect, you affect negatively yourself, getting something on you that effectively scans you, and it will keep charging the battery if you get near another drone. So it doesn't rely on you just simply heavily gen and rushing, and even also not staying in one area all the time by another drone. because now you can basically have to remember that if you stay there for too long, that barrier is going to keep on increasing, and it will stay that way effectively, and basically make you have to deal with that for such a long time and be scanned by the killer. And that would be a big bad idea right there that happens. So the claw trap, I think, is a not bad concept right there, at least too. So that's like one thing I do like the power very much about that. So I have to give it to the claw trap. I think I like that unique concept of just having something negatively impacting you for effectively positively helping your teammates out when you're like trying to keep a drone off a gen so your teammates can complete it, or et cetera, basically like that. Again, I don't really hate the power in concept as a whole. I think it's just it's very underwhelming, I would say. It just doesn't really get the job done, I would say, completely effectively as a whole when it comes to trying to get those special effects into action. At least the lock-on effect, because it's not like you're going to get the lock-on fully leveled up on anyone, unless, of course, they don't realize it and they get eventually caught in killer instinct and then exposed, which most likely for smart play, they probably will know. Because again, I think on survivors, they can still see the zone area for the active mode and the scouting mode. That's why I think there needs to be, I feel like maybe there's some way to stealthily make it happen, which is why I think maybe with like active mode, maybe they could do something like basically causing it to where if you like use it in any form or in any way, you could maybe just effectively like in active mode, it'll be the same thing like usual, but in like it's like in scouting mode, it like causes it to like go completely into like a stealth mode, basically, for scout mode, so they can't see it and they can't hear it. And then once that happens, they will eventually get caught in active mode. It will like alert them in a very crazy way. I think something like that would be a pretty cool concept, at least in my opinion. I just feel like that maybe something like that matter would add to it a bit more and make some pretty cool, fun, interesting, cool concepts right there. Very interesting right there. At least that's what I just say. That's what I just feel like what can happen if they were to maybe do something like that a little more in a better way for the power. But again, she's still not out yet. We still have to wait for the chapter to come out, so let's give it time at least. I do want to kind of wait for the chapter to release and see if any changes happen. So let's find out soon enough. Let's keep an eye on it. Now that is the power, let me talk about some of the perks and kind of give my thoughts on the perks. First, I talk about is Game Afoot. So what this perk does is that anytime at all you are chasing the obsession, whoever's the obsession of the survivor, the perk will activate. When this happens, anytime you damage a generator, you break a wall, you break a pallet, anything like that, just anything like that, you get the haste stats effect for 10 seconds. And then not only that, if you also hit the survivor, whenever you hit the survivor with the total most time in a chase, so if you get a little more longer time with the chase a little bit more, you will actually, when you hit them with a basic attack, they also become the obsession. So it will basically kind of be a way to, it's like kind of like a pattern where if you chase someone who's the obsession, and for a good time, the perk will activate and gives you a nice little haste stats effect whenever that happens as a gift right there. And then if you keep on repeating that, you can keep getting it back again and again and again, just so you can keep getting a little more haste. It makes the chase a little more effective for you a little bit. And not only that, if you then chase someone for a long time and hit them with a basic attack, then they become obsession, and then you can get the buff of special haste buff again from the perk on a new survivor, so you don't have to chase the same one all the time. Now, while I do find this it sounds like a pretty interesting perk, I have to tell you though, I don't think this is going to be a very effective perk in my opinion. As much as it sounds pretty nice, I just don't agree that this is going to be a good perk. I mean, it gives you a 5% haste stats effect after you chase your obsession for at least 10 seconds at the max right there. And you get basically, and then once you then damage a generator or a pallet or anything like that. While it sounds cool in kind of like ways I want to say though, I don't think this is effective as much compared to other speed perks. Like whenever I think of speed perks for the killer, obviously whenever I see something like Superior Anatomy being used a lot and Bamboozle to help combine with that, stuff like that, and just any other related speed things, I don't think this is going to be as effective as much in my opinion though. I mean, if it would be nice if I guess it would be combining this with something like Brutal Strength so that you can damage stuff pretty quickly and then get the haste stats pretty quickly at the same time. So I think maybe combining that could put some effect to that. But I just don't see myself really thinking that I really want to use something like this perk in one of my slots, because it gives me just simply a 5% speed boost for a few seconds just after simply chasing my obsession for within a good amount of time, and then after that I can just get it back again, and even easily if I just hit another person who I chase the most and they become obsession as well, which means it effectively gives me my perk back again and again. It's nice that at least there's no really, I think, a cooldown to it, so that makes it, I guess, pretty nice. But I just don't find the gift of it effectively as much for it. Like 5%, like that's a small one right there. I mean, sure, you don't want to go any higher than that, honestly. I don't think that really is anything you want to go higher, like 10% of it or something like that. Nuh-uh. Although I feel like it could be a little bit more. Honestly, I feel like they should increase it along with each of the turns right there, because they do increase the time of it. Maybe at the max, it should have been going up to like maybe like 7% maybe of the haste stats effect, in my opinion. So it's like a little more faster, a bit more. But I think 5 will keep it there for now, at least, I would say. But I feel like that maybe also if they wanted to, they could make the time a little bit more. Maybe make it like maybe 11, 12 seconds for the haste stats effect, make it a little more or longer. So that's a little, so it gets a little more time to be useful in some ways. But like I said, I just don't feel like this perk is going to be as effective, in my opinion, as anyone would think right there. But maybe with Brutal Strength, like I say, because it does require you doing the least damage generator or a palatable wall after chasing your obsession, could be a good effect of that. And maybe combine this, since this involves basic tech, maybe combine it with something like Save the Best for Last could also be really good too. Getting that full max out right there. Although, again, you got to be careful, though, because if you attack your obsession, you lose your token. So that might not be as effective as much, though. But, I mean, hey, if you're very careful when you're going after everyone that's not your obsession and not attacking them as much, you could get a little effect out of that and kind of boost it up. But, again, like I said, though, I just don't feel like this could be as crazy as much being used. But I could see maybe something if you combine with the right perks. Brutal Strength, I would say probably at least is probably one perk I would say that would be good. So maybe go test that out for yourself, guys. I'm going to be experiment with that myself. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. All right, moving on, I want to talk about next now is Leverage, which actually to me, I think is actually probably, in my opinion, at least one of her best perks, because it's actually another heal related regression kind of perk a little bit more. But I actually do like the effect of it, because it's kind of like basically getting someone slow down for each time you take people out very easily. I want to see how that plays out a bit more if you combine this with any other perks. So basically, Leverage, what this does is that anytime you hook a survivor, you gain a token up to a maximum of 10. When you after hook a survivor, the perk will activate, and for each token, it will actually reduce the speed at which survivors heal by 5% for a total of the maximum of 30 seconds. So it goes up basically, of course, to about 5% at the max, and it will last for 30 seconds. So it's not a permanent situation, not like Thanophobia or something like that. No. So it does have a pretty lengthy, nice lengthy duration while that happens. But obviously, I want to discuss about that, how it might also overpowered it might be a little bit as well. Because again, it gives you one token and does give you 5% reduction to healing speed. So that means literally if you get to 10 tokens, if you do, that means it's like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 45, about 50%. So you get 50% of reduction to healing to all survivors. And like I mentioned, combine this with other related stuff, like use the Nurse's Calling to see their aura with their healing, and maybe like Thanophobia combined with that. That's going to be a very big reduction. At least I think so, I would say, if it stacks very well with that. But I will say, though, I do have to say this is a really cool perk in concept that helps stop healing. It stops that, it slows down the survivor very effectively in the slow time. One good thing I will say, though, is that it's not permanently, it's just a time base. But I do have something I have to disagree with that. It's just how long it lasts. It lasts for 30 seconds when you hook the survivor. 30 seconds. And I think it's only once you hook a survivor. So I think once after you other survivor's been unhooked or something like that, I think the effect goes away, I believe, if I remember. I can't remember though, but I think it does. But once you hook it, it lasts 30 seconds. Although I think the cooldown the duration of it is like a very long, like lengthy time. I feel like they should have nerfed that a little bit more, just so it's like not that effective. Maybe cut it in half. Maybe make it like 15 seconds instead, or at least maybe make it like maybe around like maybe like 17, 19, maybe 20 seconds or so. Maybe cut it down by 10 and by 10 or half of it seconds right there, because I think 30 seconds is pretty long for how long it waits for that reason very much. Because again, if you got a really good killer, it won't be so hard for a killer to just go around and find the next person who's healing with the perks I just mentioned, and then just take them out and then just keep repeating the hook, and they just can't heal each other at all for jack pretty much. So I think they should nerf that down to like maybe like half, 15 seconds at least, I would say. Maybe that should be good, so it's like still effectively a good amount of time, but it's not that super long, and then eventually it will just go away, and then everyone will not have to deal with that regression. Because again, It's not permanent. It's only when the survivor is hooked, and it keeps going up each time a token's given to the killer. So at least somewhere around that line, I feel like that could be more effective at least. But let me know what you guys think. But so far, I actually think this is one of her best perks, and I do like that very much. With that regression, I can imagine combining it with some of those healing regression perks. So I can't wait to experiment with that a little bit more at least. Now, finally moving on to next is Thwack, which is one of my favorite names so far for a perk right there, Thwack, which I do like. And basically what this perk does is that after you hook a survivor, the next breakable wall or pallets you break will make survivors within 32 meters scream and reveal their aura for 4 seconds. And then this perk has is active for 75 seconds after the survivor is hooked. So you have a long time. Personally, to me, I don't really find this perk really, in my opinion, the greatest. Honestly, I think this is like very, very weak version of kind of getting a better aura reading and like survivor detecting kind of perk, basically, compared to other ones similar to like nowhere to hide, which you can use on generators to find people that are close within the range or something like that. I think it's not a bad perk completely, but I just don't find it anything better compared to like some of the other reading perks that we use a lot anyway. So I just feel like it's just not as really as great in my opinion though. But I think it's a little more slightly better than maybe Game of Foot, because again though, it does require you to really kind of have to keep up with your obsession, and it just gives a 5% speed boost, and that's it. So maybe with that, I find Game of Foot a little more less of a better perk compared to something like, again, like this. So I think maybe having something like this perk Thwack is a little more effective, a bit more. So I think I do like Thwack a little more better in a way. So it's nice to have a little something or reading a little bit, but I think it's not as better as some of the other or reading perks a bit more, in my opinion. So I think there's like more that will come out of it that we can use if we experiment a little more with some of the perks. But maybe we combine some like maybe Lethal Pursuer could be a little more effective, because again, it obviously reveals their aura for like 4 seconds, obviously, and then after that, it's like if you add like number 2 seconds, so that's like 6 seconds. So maybe some little effective to that could be really nice. But again, it's just only 6 seconds. But I feel like other aura perks will be a little more better compared to this, honestly, in my opinion. And so I wouldn't prefer Thwack as much, but I think it could be still probably really good in some concept right there, in at least some concept. All right. Anyway, so far I think all her 3 perks in general are, I would say they're not the most great compared to all the different perks right there. Maybe at least I would say probably her second perk, as I mentioned, Leverage. I think her Leverage perk is probably the best I would consider, but again, the at least with Thwack is nice at least, and then the other one, again, before it might not be something I would consider really great in my opinion, honestly. But I feel like most of her perks are quite weak in some way, in some situation, because even with Leverage, as I mentioned, how great that sounds like there, I don't think it's gonna be as effective as much, because again, it only requires once you hook a survivor, and also it only gives you like up to that point if you could reach 10 tokens. So I do find the perk a little bit weak compared to other perks that will give you. Like again, with Thanophobia, you can literally just get people hurt, simple as that, and it gives you the benefit. And if you hurt everyone, or hook everyone, or down everyone, you pretty much get the full big percent of that regression for everything, not just healing, but almost everything completely. So this perk, I would say, is still quite the weakest, still quite weak compared to the other ones, but it's like more stronger, I would say, in my opinion, compared to the other 2 perks. So there's still something out of her I could find with each of those perks somehow, but like, it's just not as strong compared to other perks. So I feel like it's just not in her best situation right now, in my opinion. Then there is the Mori I want to first mention as well. Like, just because I obviously like to talk about Moris for the killers as well, obviously, in most ways. The Mori is not great. It's boring. It's so lackluster. It's basically a bootleg version of Freddy Krueger's Mori as a whole. I'm very disappointed in what they were coming up with this Mori right here. Like, I was like, when I saw this, when I was testing this out in the PTB, I'm just very disappointed in it. It doesn't give much character to her at all. Like, it just feels like it's just the same design, it's just in a different, unique way. Although with Freddy, it makes sense to me because it's Freddy Krueger to me. With this person, I don't know about the skull merge. I don't know who she is, so I really can't really give a good idea about what would fit her very well for that. But it definitely is not something similar to Freddy Krueger. I could imagine maybe it's something like using her drone in some way, or maybe using some other technological related stuff, maybe zapping her, although that would be like the doctor, but maybe some unique with machinery would have been nice. just anything at all instead of just simply just claw through chest. I mean, it's just the same Mori. That's all it is. The same Mori like Freddy Krueger, like literally. So I'm very disappointed in the Mori right there. I hope the best they decide to change that soon, or at least find a way to make it a little more unique in some way to her character, especially with the drone. Because I think if they do something with the drone, that would be so much cool. Like imagine like using the drone to like use it to, like pierce through her body or something like that, or maybe like shoot some rivet guns or something like that, or just or some electrical zapper or something like that. Anything as a whole, just something of that matter, would be very, very cool indeed, in my opinion. All right. Well, anyway, final thoughts on my thing about what I think about the Skull Merchant. Do I think that this chapter, or at least this killer specifically for the chapter, at least, do I think it's very boring? In my opinion, yes. I don't think she is great. I think she's quite boring. But do I want to like say that she's like the most shittiest or the most worst compared to like what everyone's saying? Honestly, no. I think she is quite unique with her power, and her perks are not bad in some way too. I just feel like some of them need to be kind of worked a little more, obviously. And this is just the PTB, so obviously we need to see how it goes when we get to launch and give her time to be worked on. Even the same thing when it comes to like the Knight or Wesker or the Dredge or any of the other killer survivors, because obviously they gotta be worked in some form. With this situation with the killer, I just think I want to give her more time at least, because I feel like there's going to be something out of her very soon. I do hope, especially it focuses on the power, because the power is what I'm so uniquely intrigued by, because the drone concept is not bad in my opinion. I think it's great. It's just not powerful, or at least it's very underwhelming. And I know I'm going to say that when I said powerful right there, I'm going to be like, oh, what? Oh, everyone's going to be like, oh, like killer. Do we killers don't have to be like? Do we have the killers be powerful all the time and all that stuff? No, I mean obviously not. But I just feel like that we like it's just very underwhelming. It's just not a good peak I would expect the drone to be. For me, that's why I said about those ideas about making it a little more stealth-like, similar to like Ghostface. What should be done is that when it's in active mode, it should be very much like obviously a very aggressive kind of situation right there. But when it goes to scouting mode, it should be a stealth situation. Like you can't really still see the aura in the active mode, but you can hear the noise. You know it's nearby. But then when you hear something, and then when you go to stealth, like scout mode, it'll be completely stealth. So you can't see the aura, obviously. You can't hear the noise, and then once it detects you, that's when it kicks in the overdrive, and then it starts doing that. And you know it's there. But then you can quickly do is then disable it, because once it's already hit scout mode, you can literally go up to it and disable it. I would say the same thing when it comes to active mode, but I would like to maybe like say it sticks there and just defend it for a good amount of time, and then once it hits scout mode, the shield defense mechanism of it is gone, and then you can't really then you can really disable it now. And even if it's in active mode, you can still disable it, and then you get the claw trap and stuff like that. Something like that matter could be a little more in a way that makes it more useful in a way to be stealthy, but in a way that makes it a little bit challenging for survivors. Because then obviously if the survivor goes near it, they'll hear the noise, but if they don't realize where the aura is and they don't realize how close they are by looking at the meter on their icons, then they won't realize the killer already knows they're there, and they might go after them. And then maybe after some time, if it goes into scout mode and they go back to it and haven't sabotaged it, or someone else didn't realize there's a drone there, they might just get caught off guard and just go work on the gen. And next thing you know what, boom, they get active mode and they realize it's there. They got to sabotage it. But now the killer knows where they are, and then they get obviously the claw trap. So something like that matter, I think, could be pretty unique in a way that would be pretty cool for the killer, at least I would say, for the power. Again, as for the perks as well, I feel like just some things need to be kind of worked on a bit, especially leverage. I think you just need to be nerfed with that duration from 30 seconds to like 15 seconds, even though obviously I wouldn't compare it to anything strong than other related regressive perks, like obviously like Thanophobia, for example, for that reason. But the other two perks, obviously Thwack I think is okay pretty much, but in Game of Play I don't think it's really the greatest. I think there's still some things that need to be kind of worked on, but again, it's just the PTB. You can't really expect everything to be perfect or great, obviously, at the start. So I'm willing to at least say to give it a chance and see what happens. Unlike many people who are already questioning and already giving doubt for this chapter immediately as it is. And not to mention, I do love the killer's concept. Even though I was hoping for a robot killer for this concept of Tools of Torment, I still like her skin. And I'm looking forward to see what skins they got. Maybe they can make a skin for her that's like part woman, part machine, as she is. Like maybe they can make it where she has some like machinery parts, like a robotic arm and leg and stuff like that, and the mask is actually her face part of it completely, with the skull and stuff like that, as mechanical, something like that. you know, like some kind of Terminator-like vibes, as everyone was jokingly talking about this during the chapter's announcement. So something like that, maybe that'd be pretty cool. Something like that would be pretty dope in my opinion. So I think it'd be pretty cool. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and call it there for this video. I had a great time talking about this right now and give my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I had a great time going and discussing this video, and I do have hopes at least that maybe when this chapter released, hopefully maybe things will get improved and the Skull Merchant will become pretty exciting as she looks, pretty much in my opinion, and maybe if her power and her perks will become pretty cool. I do like what I talked about with the Survivor Special 2 with their perks. I might discuss more about that later on in another video down the line, of course, maybe when they come out, of course, and after maybe some changes. I would maybe like to talk about that along with the killer if some changes do come in for her. So we'll give it some time at least, but we'll see what happens. But anyway, that's it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, have a good rest of your time. Keep on partying. And I will see you guys next time. Have a good rest of your day, Pizza Party.